Okay, so we're back again with another vintage lens. This time we have the Vivitar 24mm. We have covered this lens on this channel many years ago. This is one of those lenses that I refuse to give up. I have an affinity, I have a love for this thing. This thing is actually a really nice lens. It's a 2.8, so it's fairly bright. It's 24mm, so on a full frame sensor, that's really quite wide, and this does cover a full frame sensor. The build quality of this thing, I suppose that's the first thing we should be talking about. It's one of those lenses that are made in Japan, like majority of all vintage lenses were of this time period. I think we're falling into the 1980s when it comes to this lens, but even so, right? I don't know if you can see the front of this lens here, but the coatings, the glass quality of this lens is still impeccable even to this day in 2024. Can you believe there's no scratches on this thing? I can still see all the purples and the greens of the coatings. The focus wheel still moves really smooth. It's a really nice lens, and great thing about this one, unlike the last lens we tested, the iris opens and closes, so we can do a proper test. Price wise, this lens seems to go up and down quite a bit. When I bought this lens, I probably paid around £10 for it, not a lot of money whatsoever. But nowadays it seems like the price has been going up and down a little bit. I'll pop it on the screen because I'm actually not sure where this sits as of today, but I'll give you my average of what I've seen online. Now, there's a few things I'm hoping you guys would have pointed out when seeing this footage, right? So we are wider on the aspect ratio. There's not so much bokeh in the background of this lens, as you can kind of imagine on a 24mm lens at f2.8. But what we do get, the separation we do get, is actually quite nice. I was using obviously my wife there as samples, and I don't think 24mm kind of is the right focal length for people. I will say that because I feel like you start to get that kind of the curve in features. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, this will be a bit more adept to say getting an establishing shot, a wide shot, something like that. I think the previous lens we did, the Carl Zeiss Flextagon lens, 35mm, that focal length was just perfection, I think, for that kind of subject matter. But one thing I will say with this lens, incredible colors when it comes to contrast and saturation. It is a bit soft though. As we're going through the lens, you have to kind of stop it down for it to sharpen up. Wide open at f2.8, I'd say it's relatively soft, right? I feel like we have to get to about f4 and onwards to start gaining some of that sharpness back. And it does have a very kind of unique flair to it. Nothing super special, but something a little bit nicer than the previous lens that we reviewed last time. So let's dive into the finer details of this particular lens. First of all, let's talk about close focus, because this thing has a really nice close focus. It goes all the way down. What we're talking here, it goes down to 0.6 feet, which doesn't seem that low, but I mean, if you're kind of trying to get some details, you can get it with this particular lens. I do have some really nice lenses coming up that can go close focus a little bit more deeper, but so far I'm really impressed with this lens. Let's pop it onto the camera and do a few tests and see how we feel from there. So what you're looking at right now is the 20-60, which is the kit lens for the LUMIX S5 series or the S series, and we're going to pop this on to the camera right now. So we're going to go from 20mm to 24. So now we are on the Vivitar. Is there a change in color from the LUMIX, you know, kit lens comparison to this? And are we in focus there? Hold on, let's have a look. See, I think here we're in focus, just about. Right, so that's 24mm now on this S5. First thing I always like to do is let's test some of the flaring on this lens to see how that works. Right now we are at f5.6 on the lens. So let's see how this looks when it's flaring. Let's get some light on here. And as you can see, it wants to flare a lot quicker than some of the other lenses that we've checked. And take a look at that light there. That's a very pure white light. I don't know what was going on with the previous lenses, but they had a bit of a tone to them, didn't they? So there we go. I've got that flare going on there. It's kind of like a little orange rocket on the opposite side of the flare. Go nice and close, see how it looks. There we are. Now it's at 5.6. Let's have the lens completely wide open, see what happens. Now we're completely wide open. You can see how soft the lens has gone now. And that's kind of a really huge halation on the light. The flaring kind of doesn't really want to stand out as much here. Let's drop it down a little bit. Let's stop it down to f11. So we're quite dark. As you can see, we're getting that starburst kind of look now. But the flare isn't really doing anything major flary. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing kind of dramatic there. Kind of stop it down. There's nothing really dramatic there that's kind of going to give you that Hollywood kind of Spielberg look, even though it's probably going to use anamorphic on that anyway. Like I said, wide open, it's not very sharp. You saw that firsthand just a few moments ago. It's quite soft. Let's just do that again now. Right now we're on f5.6. Now we are doing f2.8. And as you can see, it's quite soft, right? I think here my beard looks like it's in focus with the focus peaking, and still on the screen it looks pretty soft. Let's drop this back down to 5.6, and I feel like this is where the sharpness really starts to come back into something that's quite normal. But take a look at these colors though. Look at the way it's rendering the tungsten in the background, the red on the light there, the green in my hat. It's giving a modern kind of look to this lens, which I'm enjoying. So the color saturation, it can match up with your modern lenses. The coatings on this lens are pretty nice. Now we can test the close focus. It's always something that's quite nice to test with these lenses. So let's throw this thing all the way around. I might have to get it a little bit brighter because last time we went quite dark, didn't we? So let's throw this all the way around to close focus. Go about there, and let's see. Alright, so close focus is actually alright on this lens. I think at this focal range, it can be a little bit better. I think there's some other lenses out there that may do a better job when it comes to focusing close focus on a 24mm. So here's my overview of the Vivitar 24mm lens. If you're looking for something that has a modern tonality to it, this lens may be the one for you. There's a few things that I don't particularly like about this lens. The focus wheel, or the focus ring on this thing, it's a rubberized one on this, I believe. Yeah, so it's like a groove, but then some rubber that's put around it. Mine hasn't come loose, but what you do notice is it does kind of retract and go in and out a little bit. So if you were, say, dropping some focus teeth on there, that will move and shift along the way. I don't think it shifts enough to fall off the follow focus system, but it's visible, you know what I mean? It's something that you might want to bear in mind. Also, the focus throw of this lens isn't really that long, so yeah, acquiring focus is quite a short affair. Do you know what I mean? Just little small increment movements. Overall though, as an establishing lens, it's really nice. You kind of get all those colors that you need if you're doing infinity focus, and if you're stopping down from f5.6, which you probably will if you're trying to get an establishing shot, you know what I mean? You'll probably be around the f11 anyway. You'd have that full infinity focus going on there. At that point in time, it looks really sharp. The colors are nice. The sharpness is nice, the contrast detail is really nice in this thing, and it's minimal flaring. So if you're just trying to go for detail, go for establishing shots, this may be a nice, cheap option for you. So it's gotten to the point where I give my rating out of 10. And for the Vivitar 24mm f2.8, I will give this lens a 6.9 out of 10. That's my rating. I feel like it's got all the recipes to be a great lens. It's small, it's petite, it's got great color, great contrast, but it just falls short on character, it falls short on sharpness, and for that I have to drop the rating down just a little bit on this particular lens. So if you're interested in seeing vintage lenses on mirrorless cameras, then this may be the series for you. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit a like if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below if there's any lenses out there that you would like to see a video on that aren't the typical ones that we see out there. I've got a box full of lenses, vintage lenses a lot of you guys probably may have never heard of. So if you're interested in just finding some nice secret weapons that are out there, stay tuned for this series because I think it may benefit you guys greatly. Alright then, I guess I will catch you in whichever video happens to come next. Peace.
Life just another roller coaster, but I get the dash in that door.